watching the 2014 Women's Soccer Media Days, and joining us today from San Antonio, Texas, is head coach Lance Key and senior midfielder Emily Jorgens of the reigning SCAC champion and national runner-up Trinity Tigers. And first of all, we thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, James, for having us.
Coach Key, we'll start with you. A season ago, a great season for this program, playing for a national title and just falling short, but nonetheless a great season. What did that accomplishment do for your program, and what does your team have to do to return to that point this season?
Well, thanks first for reminding me how that season ended. I appreciate that. Moving off of that, one of the big things that we've talked about within our program and within the culture of our program is the process. So for us, we tried to put things in perspective prior to last season even beginning. It was more about the process than the end result. Feeling that if we could master that, or at least keep our focus on that, that we would always be able to build on whatever the circumstance was and move in a progressive direction. So in terms of this year, from a goal standpoint, our goal is to get better every day, and whatever that means, and whatever capacity that means, that's the objective. I feel like in many ways is a conscious choice that each of us have to make within the program to bring a better version of ourselves, and ultimately we have to hope that collectively we've gotten better. As long as we continue to do that, then I would like to think we're going to continue to be able to compete every match that we play. And that's all that we can do is try to be as good as we can every day, and hopefully the results will fall in our favor more often than they don't.
With preseason just starting, obviously we're still a little early in the preseason part of the year, and the season will start next weekend. What are you hoping to see from your squad throughout the preseason?
I'm looking for our returning players to really carry the direction of the program, especially at this phase of the year. There's a lot of assessment going on from a staff standpoint, and we were able to rely heavily on a returning group that has a tremendous amount of experience, not just from last year, but from previous years. And they've done a good job of that thus far. As you said, we're only a couple of days in, but there's a lot of things that we can really rely on our upperclassmen, in particular our senior class, for them to manage. And we get to sit back a little bit and have that layer of removal, if you will, and be able to see some things in a different perspective than we might ordinarily be able to do if we're having to micromanage. So I'm not big on micromanagement anyway. On a lot of things, there are some things that I'm very detail oriented about, and they know that. But fortunately, the type of young women that we're blessed to have in this program are similar, and they're detail oriented, and they're very driven and focused. So at this stage, it's really is trying to get an idea of how the new players are going to come in alongside the returning players, and how we integrate that. We feel that the players on our roster are all integral. You can't have people that aren't playing an integral role, and so at this point, it's just the early stage of identifying what those roles are.
Emily, I'll turn to you. As we mentioned last year, such a successful season. Just tell me about the experience that this group, especially with a large senior class coming back, the experience of being able to play at such a high national level and playing in a national championship. How is that going to carry over into 2014?
Yeah, we felt so honored and privileged to be able to play for that national championship game. We know it's not easy to get there. It was a long road, and I think that the struggles we went through in that whole process really brought our class close together, but not just our class, the whole team. And I mean, we've learned so much from that experience, and we're just going to carry that forward into this year and hopefully share the experiences that we had with the incoming freshmen and the transfer. So just to have everyone be able to experience that together is the goal this year again.
Coach Key, I'll come back to you. A strong group of seniors this year. How vital will they be to this team's success?
They'll be invaluable. It's such a great core of character, and I think in the end that matters probably more than anything else. And to be able to rely on the young women that we have in that senior class and the type of people that they are, and the way they conduct themselves, the standards they hold themselves to, that carries over so much to young players who are just trying to get an idea of what they're supposed to even be doing. With a large incoming class with a lot of questions and uncertainties, you have to have a good group of upperclassmen that can give them some guidance and direction, that can put their arm around them and help them move along in the right direction. And so these guys are going to continue to do as good a job as they've done over the last 3 years. They really have been a big part, not only off the field but on the field, consistently over the course of the previous 3 seasons. I don't expect that to change going into this year. But the maturation, the emotional maturation, the psychological maturation that they've gone through, and the experiences that they've had that have helped them to mature, I think are just going to be invaluable for the young players and the new players to the program, and really are going to, I think they're going to determine our success based on their ability to manage that.
Emily, I'll turn back to you. Obviously, being early in preseason and such, just share with us just the excitement level to get back on the pitch and start a new season.
Yeah, we've all been working really hard all summer, so it's always exciting to come back and finally put all that hard work over summer into use. So, you can see it just on the field. Everyone's very excited to be there. We're all very bubbly, and we're going through some tough, strenuous times on our bodies, but just it's a bonding experience because we're all supporting each other and being there for each other. So the excitement is definitely evident on the field and also off the field whenever we're talking.
Coach, we talked about it last year at Media Days, and you brought it up earlier in this interview, but share with us a little more about the process that you share with your team, that you share with your returners and the newcomers coming in, and just how important that is to this team.
Process is continual. And, I think if you're doing it the right way, there's never an end to the process. And I think as long as people, as we realize that there's always things that we can improve upon, then we're consistently moving forward. So most of what we've talked about has not been soccer. They've played soccer for 2.5 days, but we've not talked a lot about soccer. We've talked a lot about standards, choices, expectations of each other, the importance of commitment to each other, the family concept, and what that means to us. And so that process, as I said, being continual, has continued over from last year. We're not rebuilding. We haven't lost the structure and have to recreate a new one. We're just building on what we've already been able to experience and achieve. And I think as long as we keep that perspective, then we're creating a scenario where we're likely to be successful. Then each of us has that individual part to play to make that choice to maintain that. And I think, for us, we talk a lot about the individual choices and the standards that we hold ourselves to. And so long as we're all making the right choices most of the time, with the occasional opportunity for error, but then quickly get back on track, then I think we're setting ourselves up for success.
You're watching the 2014 SCAC Women's Soccer Media Days with head coach Lance Key and senior midfielder Emily Jorgens of the Trinity Tigers. Emily, I'll turn back to you. We've talked about the strong group of seniors. Just tell me the meaning for you, for your fellow seniors, to be leaders among this team.
Yeah, we're so grateful to be able to lead such a amazing group of girls. Everyone around us is phenomenal, and so they inspire us every day. It's not just us inspiring them. But to become the best players that we can be, and then in turn try to help the younger underclassmen become the best players that they can be, and then ultimately become leaders themselves on the field, because we don't need to lead everyone, they can lead also. So we're just trying to create leaders also.
Coach, I'll turn back to you. As we've mentioned, we're early in the preseason process. But tell me a little bit about your newcomers that have come in and what you are hoping to see from them throughout the preseason process.
It's always a little bit of a lottery when you come into preseason, and I think the more new faces you have, the more uncertainty there can be, because you just don't know exactly how it's all going to come together, and we still don't know what that's going to look like. What we do know is through the recruiting process, we try to identify the brightest and best young people that we can through our process, that happen also to be excellent students and excellent soccer players. But the character and the integrity of the individual matters so much, so that when we arrive into preseason, at least we know we've got a bunch of great kids. And if we've got a bunch of great people surrounding us, then things oftentimes tend to sort of slip into place. They don't always happen immediately. Sometimes it takes some time to grow a little bit together, and that certainly will be the case for us this year. I think all of us understand and expect that it's going to take a little bit of time to figure things out. But it's a good group. They're working very hard. They all have some skills and some talents that they bring to our program. It's really just about finding the best way and in the most efficient and effective way to put those puzzle pieces together. And as I said, that's going to take a little bit of time, but I think we have the right pieces, and we just have to put them in place.
We'll get you both out on this final question. Emily, I'll start with you. For the team to reach its goals and expectations in 2014, what will be some of the keys to success?
Yeah, I mean, Lance and Owen do a great job of managing our expectations for ourselves. So we're really focusing on the process right now and just maintaining a standard of excellence with whatever we're doing. So that involves like every drill, every practice, every day, every week. We're just striving for that standard of excellence, which is definitely not perfection, but getting as close as we can. And ultimately, if we do all the little details right and manage those things, I think ultimately we'll end up reaching that final game again. So that's the goal for now, but it starts with the very little steps.
Lance, I'll ask you the same question. What will be some of the keys to success in 2014?
I think staying healthy is going to be a big part of it, and that comes down a lot to the way that we manage day to day, physical volume, minutes on the weekends. We're going to have to do a good job of balancing sufficient time and growth. As we said, it's important for us to grow together, but also recovery. And so we've adjusted some things in our program, added some components that we feel like are going to help us manage that more effectively. But the other side of it is, I think, humility and commitment to each other. And you know, one of the big things that we talk about is just doing the right thing. And so whatever the circumstance is, wherever we are within the season, wherever we are within an individual game, we're going to have to be wise and make good choices, and make good choices not only for ourselves but for each other. And as I said, I think a lot of that is cultural. I would expect and suggest that those will likely be well taken care of, but time tells on that.
You have been watching SCAC Women's Soccer Media Days with head coach Lance Gee and senior midfielder Emily Jorgens of the Trinity Tigers. Again, we thank you both for taking the time out to join us this afternoon, and we wish you good luck in 2014.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, James.